This baseball show is live. Thank you so much for joining us wherever you ingest your podcasts, whether that is live on X or YouTube, whether that's with our friends at SportsGrid on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, or whether you're listening on the audio front. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, a weird third party that doesn't really show up on our viewership and listenership reports. Jack McMullen, Peter Appel, Buster Olney of ESPN joins the program to talk about the ripple effect to Kyle Tucker, which we will talk about at the outset, and Bo Bichette. What happened there? Bo Bichette signed with the Mets conveniently about 15 hours after Kyle Tucker signed with the LA Dodgers. What that could mean for the rest of the free agent class, and also the trade market as we approach pitchers and catchers reporting in less than a month, as weird as that sounds. Whole bunch of baseball to talk about to open your week. Also, happy top 10 week on the Just Baseball show. We kick off our positional top 10 rankings. Peyton Genis, who's going to join us momentarily, was part of the ranking committee for the first time, which is great. Having said all that, Peter Appel, who we brought to you by
BetMGM. And if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code JustBaseball when signing up, and you will get up to a $1,500 new player offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Just download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code JustBaseball. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. If that bet loses, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. And once you do, on top of the new player offer, the pro football playoffs keep raging on, and BetMGM has given you two ways to make every snap even bigger. First up, Odds Boost token, activated on any pro football playoffs bet. And if your pick hits, you're looking at an even bigger payout. Simple as that. And if you want a little extra peace of mind, grab your No Sweat token, attach it to a qualifying bet. Things don't go your way, you'll get your stake back in bonus bets. No sweat, literally. BetMGM, make it legendary. And a reminder, that's code JustBaseball.
Have they thought about putting you on one of those MGM posters instead of Derek Jeter? He's wearing a suit and holding a baseball bat. He looks a lot better than you would, but I think you would add character and grit to the poster. Is that fair?
Oh, it's more than fair. And I totally agree with you. The problem is, does BetMGM agree with you? Because they have John Hamm, they have Derek Jeter. I don't think I'm their third.
I don't think Jamie Foxx too. I think Jamie Foxx is up there as well.
If they want to lean into the Three Stooges, I could potentially be the largest stooge. Yeah. But that combo, John Hamm, Derek Jeter, Peter Appel, I don't know if that's what BetMGM is thinking.
I think you're selling yourself a little bit short.
I agree with you.
We'll get into the baseball conversation now, and I want Peyton Genis to join the fold. Podcast P, show your face, man. I do want you guys to give me your well-baked thoughts now. They've had a weekend to sit in your mind. Kyle Tucker, 4 years, $240 million to the LA Dodgers, and then Bo Bichette follows about a half day later to the New York Mets, making $42 million a year. That's tied for fourth in terms of average annual value currently in Major League Baseball with Philly's Zach Wheeler. The only guys ahead of him, Shohei Ohtani, deferrals be darned. Ohtani's AAV on his 10-year deal is $70 million. Kyle Tucker is making $60 million a year. And Juan Soto is the only other guy making more on an annual basis than Bo Bichette in the 2026 season. So, Peyton, I want to start with you because you've had an opportunity to sit here for, a long weekend and just kind of think about Tucker and think about Bichette and how this happened. What's your knee-jerk reaction to these two kind of in tandem right now? You're muted, man. Heck of a start for Peyton Genis. Let's go. Unmute. Give us your thoughts.
So you muted me before the show started. I forgot to check it. That's my fault. But my initial reaction was more about I was fascinated by the short-term contract with the high AAV and whether that is lockout influenced, the situation of Tucker and Bichette influenced, or is this the way that baseball might head? Because you see with the NBA, that's kind of the style they go for. Is that maybe going to be in the post-lockout world? Is that going to be more common? That's the thing I found really interesting, especially in the sense that it's kind of a weird middle ground of being pro player since they have the freedom to opt out whenever they want, but also it's not pro player in the fact that they lack the long-term security typically based contracts have. That was kind of the thing I found most interesting. And the thing I also found very interesting is that I'm a person who almost always is an extremely pro player. Like I'm generally anti-salary cap in the context of baseball. A lot of those things I do tend to side with the players over the people who sit in the front office. However, I think when you get to a point, especially with the Dodgers, how they've not exploited actually they have exploited the system. They're not doing anything wrong. They're maximizing what they're doing. The security they have with such a team-friendly TV deal compared to other teams and the ways they're able to leverage themselves to get all of these high-profile names in the same tent, it makes you I think the Tucker deal is what you said kind of put me over the top of, okay, maybe we do need some reform here.
Gotcha. Peter, have your thoughts changed at all over the course of the weekend? Because, like, to be honest, I sit here and I see Tucker sign for $60 a year on a 4-year deal, and he has an opt-out after year 2. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, okay, this is, and I said it last week on the show, this is the move that the Dodgers have made over the last half decade that has upset me the most. That just feels like they are outbidding everybody else on a player that everybody else wants. And it felt like it was a pretty even playing field for him. And then all of a sudden, this team comes in at an unprecedented value on an average annual value basis. And that really hasn't changed internally. Have you changed at all internally?
I think I've only changed slightly, even though I agree with a lot of what you just said and what Podcast P said as well, about the future of MLB contracts. I think you both have laid out, a lot of what we've all been thinking. But additionally, I have thought about it like this. The Dodgers needed an outfielder, number one.
Yeah.
And the Dodgers needed to get younger. Because you look at the Dodgers' current roster, or at least their opening day starting lineup of what we think they're going to put out there. Kyle Tucker is the second youngest player on this list.
That's crazy to hear.
Right? He's 29 years old. Andy Paz is 25. Everybody else is older than 30. And you look at the top 3 in the lineup. I mean, Shohei Ohtani, he might not have an age. Like, he might just be this ageless alien thing. So I don't even need to mention that he's going to be 32 years old. I don't even think that matters.
Some sort of deity type figure.
Yeah, exactly.
Just knocked 7 years off his age, typically.
He could be 40 years old. It doesn't matter. But I think it does matter for Mookie Betts. And we've seen him start to slide a little bit offensively as he enters his age 34 season. And, Freddie Freeman is 35, 36 years old as well. You look at Max Muncy, who's 35 years old. So this core for LA is getting older. This team needed to get younger, and they needed to get an outfielder. The thing, and why it hurts so bad, is there are other young outfielders available. But they just had to give Kyle Tucker $60 million a year, 4 years, $240 million. So no, I will never get over that.
Yeah.
But looking at the Dodgers roster and thinking to myself, I get it. I do totally understand why they were in the Kyle Tucker boat. I never understood Bichette. I never understood a few other free agents, but I get this one. I do.
Yeah, I understand it as well. And the point that I laid out on Friday's Just Baseball show last week was they've settled into this pattern of trying to find the high AAV short-term deal type of guy that is hunting a quote-unquote bounce back. And it started with Jason Hayward at about a 1-year, $9 million deal. It was either $9 or $10 million when the Dodgers brought in Jason Hayward, and the OPS was over 800. Like, it was a total bounce back, resurgent year for Jason Hayward. And then they double down and they triple the money effectively for Teoscar Hernandez on a 1-year deal after Teoscar struggled in Seattle. And it was a tough go for him. He goes to the Dodgers. He experiences this career rejuvenation. Now, granted, he was only 2-3 years removed from an 100 RBI season with the Toronto Blue Jays, but then he parlays that into a 3-year contract extension with the LA Dodgers. They tried it again in 2025 with Michael Conforto. That was a very steep 1-year deal. It failed miserably. So what do? We're not going to try the 1-year deal, prove it thing, resurgent thing. We're just going to go get Kyle Tucker, because why would we find another Michael Conforto? Why would we go shopping for a diamond in the rough when we can just go get Kyle Tucker? And that's exactly what they did. We've got about 15 seconds left on this segment. Yes or no, real quick from the both of you. Dodgers versus the field. The more fun conversation, and Peter, you brought this up, is for the second best team in baseball. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
That's tough. Buster Olney is next.
The immediate word on the street in Philadelphia and outside is that the best guy for the job would be Brian Dable. It's like all you have to do is spend an hour of your life with me and Tyrone every day, and you're going to learn so much and be prepared for future conversations. Because I told you this back in November.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Team USA really undersold this. The superstars really weren't going, but the rest of the world, Latin America, they really geared up. The Team USA actually put their best foot forward, almost like you're having like the dream team of the United States players here going to be out on the baseball diamond. Great pitching, great superstars around. So Clayton Kershaw like, you know what? You got a spot for me where you can throw me 70 innings in this tournament because I'm not going to be playing baseball the rest of the year, and I'm just going to go away and relax and be happy.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The outline for Koepka are fantastic. I think it's perfect. It is punitive, but it's fair. You've got to levy some sort of fine, so to speak, for defecting, and I think they've done a wonderful job of being equitable and punishing him a bit at the same time. I think Brooks ultimately wants to be playing with the best.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Of ESPN joins us from the land down under. He's hanging out in Australia right now, but he's still tapped into the free agent market, the trade market. And I don't know what time it was in Australia when you got the Kyle Tucker news, but can you walk us through your immediate reaction to that Kyle Tucker news when you were sitting halfway around the world?
Wow. That contract, right? And my mind immediately went to knowing Dave Roberts. Okay, how is Dave going to structure Kyle Tucker in the lineup? And you're thinking, okay, he's got to go Ohtani leading off because Ohtani's Ohtani. Then you're going with Mookie Betts. You're going with Freddie Freeman, who's going to be the three hitter until he loses that spot. He likes having Will Smith for balance against left-handed pitching, so he's probably hitting 4. And I'm thinking the Dodgers are paying potentially their number 5 hitter the highest average annual salary in the history of baseball at $57.1 million, right? When you factor in the deferrals, that is crazy. And it's a reminder of just what an advantage that the Dodgers have. And, last year we went into the season talking about maybe the Dodgers would win 120 games. I can't remember a time where it feels like in the offseason on paper, there's a greater separation between the team we perceive to be number 1 versus the number 2, number 3, number 4.
How are we supposed to evaluate this contract? Because obviously we all think that Kyle Tucker is one of the better players in Major League Baseball, but $60 million a year, Buster, $60 million. Of course, a market, a player is as valuable as what the market will give him. But at this point, Buster, I can't even understand $60 million a year. I just can't.
No. And it's interesting because there clearly were differing opinions on this. I mean, the Chicago Cubs who had him for a year, saw him happen in the first half. Dansby Swanson said he was like the anchor of that lineup early in the year, and then he fell apart. The Cubs didn't even play. And so the idea that Tucker, after having a couple back-to-back seasons where he got hurt, it's a surprise to me, but it's the Dodgers, and they don't care. They don't give a flip. And they fully embrace this idea of being a villain. I've always talked about how with the 30 different teams, it's not like a one business that's run together. It's a confederacy. And each of these teams are going to do its best. And the Dodgers can afford it. And they're just like, screw it. Yeah, we can pay $57.1 million fifth in our lineup in a way that no other teams could even think about that.
It's amazing to think about. And I'm curious what you gathered over the course of the last couple of days, after it was signed, sealed, and delivered, or at least reported that Kyle Tucker was going to the Dodgers. How did his market materialize? Because it seems like there were other teams that were in the sweepstakes and willing to go 7 or 8 years for Kyle Tucker. Why did he and his representation decide that it was the 4 for 240 that was best?
So forgive me ahead of time. It's going to be a bit of a long-winded answer because this is, a quilt that got pulled together over a couple of weeks, and moves impacting other moves, other dominoes. First off, you come into the new year, and I think in Kyle Tucker's camp, there was a thought that, he's probably going to wind up with the Blue Jays. To that point, he had, gotten interest on a long-term deal, the classic long-term deal like we've seen in recent years for guys like Juan Soto, who, get the most money, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., get the most money for the most number of years. And then about a week into January, the Mets get involved and start talking about a lot of money on a short-term deal, right? And they are hyper-aggressive. And they're talking about $50 million a year, Juan Soto territory, $55 million a year. The idea that the Mets might give Kyle Tucker more money on an average annual value than they gave Juan Soto is just incredible.
Yeah.
So Kyle Tucker, I think was sort of getting used to the idea he was going to wind up playing Toronto. He's interested, right? And they play that out. And this was the X factor I don't think people talk about enough. I don't think the Mets were aware that the Dodgers were involved, because I don't think Steve Cohen, the Mets owner, sends out that tweet saying, we're waiting for the smoke to appear. They thought they were getting Kyle Tucker, okay? He's not sending that out unless they believe they're going to get Kyle Tucker. And then, boom, if you're Kyle Tucker and the Dodgers roll in with that offer, and I'm guessing that Andrew Friedman, who's really great at this job, swooped in and said, we'll give you this offer. We're going to give it to you, either accept it or reject it, and then we're going to move, put a time limit on it, that sort of thing. They get the player for this, what was initially announced as $240 for 4, and people are losing their minds. And if you're Kyle Tucker, you think about when the offseason began, he probably didn't want to go someplace where he had to be the guy, the way Aaron Judge is in New York, because that's not his personality. Sure. He probably would prefer that other people, other stars on a team that he landed with, get that responsibility. He's looking for the, a high salary. Good, given the fact that the Blue Jays offer $350 million over 10 years, and here come the Dodgers offering the 57.1 over 4 years, and the Dodgers are the defending champions. It's a perfect place for him. I was thinking about this. If you're a reporter and you're walking into the Dodger clubhouse, he's like the 9th guy you want to talk to. Your hope is to talk to Ohtani, to Betts, to Freeman. Kyle Tucker can just go and play. He doesn't have all these other responsibilities, and he has a chance to win a championship with that team. So that the Mets lose out on Tucker, and I think they're shocked, and they immediately pivot to Bo Bichette. And I had one say to me, like, Bo Bichette owes Kyle Tucker dinner because he put Steve Cohen into a feeding frenzy. Now, look, there have been stories out there. The Mets laid the groundwork. They had careful planning. Come on. They started the offseason talking about run prevention, and they will go into spring training with 2 players in Bo Bichette and Jorge Polanco who've never played their position before. And when you really think about it, and I do think the Mets just frantically, as what was written in The Athletic over the weekend, they wanted a star. Like, Brett Beatty is a good major league player, and they sort of devalued him with the way this all played out. But the idea that they would wind up paying Bo Bichette 3 years, $126 million after not wanting to pay Pete Alonso, New York proven, fan favorite, franchise record holder, not willing to pay him just $155 to $30 million more makes no sense. But they do wind up with Bo Bichette, who's a really great hitter, and we'll see if he's okay with this transition. So these 2 signings absolutely were directly related. And I think from the Mets perspective, it also made it palpable or more attractive, the idea that if you sign Bo Bichette, you keep him away from the Philadelphia Phillies, who clearly need a right-handed hitter.
Our conversation with ESPN's Buster Olney, who is now officially a recurring guest on the Just Baseball show. He and Paul Hembekides have been a tremendous resource for us. That will continue in a moment wherever you are listening or watching the Just Baseball show, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on YouTube, joining us live on X, or with us on SportsGrid. Buster will continue to dive into the Bichette and Tucker front and the ripple there in a moment on the Just Baseball show.
the immediate word on the street in Philadelphia and outside is that the best guy for the job would be Brian Dable. It's like all you have to do is spend an hour of your life with me and Tyrone every day, and you're going to learn so much and be prepared for future conversations. Because I told you this back in November.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Team USA really undersold this. The superstars really weren't going, but the rest of the world, Latin America, they really geared up. The Team USA actually put their best foot forward, almost like you're having like the dream team of the United States players here going to be out on the baseball diamond. Great pitching, great superstars around. So Clayton Kersaw's like, you know what? You got a spot for me where you can throw me 70 innings in this tournament because I'm not going to be playing baseball the rest of the year, and I'm just going to go away and relax and be happy.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The outline for Koepka are fantastic. I think it's perfect. It is punitive, but it's fair. You've got to levy some sort of fine, so to speak, for defecting, and I think they've done a wonderful job of being equitable and punishing him a bit at the same time. I think Brooks ultimately wants to be playing with the best.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
ESPN right now. And a quick follow-up to what you were just saying about, Bichette following so quickly after Tucker. Is panic a fair word to use?
I think it is, because I always think of, and the reason why I would apply that word in this case is, do I think that the Mets sat in their conference rooms, Mets executives sat in their conference rooms and thought, what would be a good outcome for the winner? We're paying $42 million a year for someone who has never played this position before. That to me is panic. And I think it was a direct result of, they thought they had Kyle Tucker, a star. And the idea that we need to get a star as opposed to, hey, we want to make our team better, I can't square that. And again, I think if the Mets had to do it all over again, you wonder if they would have looked at Pete Alonso a little differently. Like if they were sitting in a conference room saying, okay, 5 years, 155 for Pete, or 3 years, 126, in which we give Bo Bichette all the power because the opt-out in the contract. I think it absolutely is fair to say that they were scrambling. They wanted a star. They pay Bo Bichette a lot of money. And by the way, there has been, reporting about Bo Bichette being the guy the Mets focused on. They wanted him to change the clubhouse chemistry. Come on. Like Bo Bichette has been known in his career as being a great hitter, super talented, someone who's going to, he's probably going to lead the National League in hits, but he's never been a glue guy. Like you hear stories about Kyle Schwarber, you hear stories about, Aaron Judge. Bo Bichette's a really great player, but it is going to be adjustment for him to go to New York and play there for the first time and to be playing a position he's never played before.
And it's not even just about playing a position for the first time. The point of third base is being able to make that throw from third base to first base. And one of the many reasons that a lot of teams didn't think Bichette was going to stick it short was because his throwing ability, right? So you move that guy over to third base. That doesn't make a lot of sense, especially when Stearns came out this offseason and emphasized that run prevention was going to be a big part of their plan. So to me, this feels like Steve Cohen just said, all right, we missed on Tucker. We have to sign the biggest bat, and that's it. And we're going to work around it because this doesn't feel like a Stearns move.
No, I agree with you 100% on that. And what I've heard, and I asked a bunch of people about, how do you think Bo Bichette's going to do at third base? And one person said to me, in fact, most of the people I talked to said, it's going to be a transition for him because when he played shortstop, how many times do you see him dive after a ball? right? Where he's going on the ground, picking up the ball, making a strong throw over the top from moving to his right. And he answered none. That wasn't part of what he does. He goes to third base where maybe the most important thing for him is going to be first step quickness. Very different than the way playing in the middle of the infield. That's what I've had some people say to me. I talked to someone this morning who disagreed with that. He said, look, I think Bo will be okay. He watched him, as we all did, in the World Series playing second base. He thinks Bo will figure it out and be able to be okay at third base. I know this, and I've seen some people say, it's an easy transition if you're on the left side of the infield. I covered Cal Ripken.
Sure.
He transitioned from shortstop to third base. Cal was a brilliant defender in terms of how he played it at mentally, and his first year at third base was tough. Like, it is not an easy thing to do, and I do think there probably is going to be a learning curve for Bo at third base.
Gotcha. Buster Olney, I'm curious if you see kind of a path forward for the New York Mets here, because the Mets, it almost feels like the Yankees last year when they don't connect on the Soto signing, right? Soto goes to the different borough, and then the Yankees figure out, oh, we can allocate our money in X, Y, and Z way. And they went like 3 or 4 different avenues. Was Bichette, do you feel like, the first domino for the Mets? And are there more coming for the Mets? Could it involve a Beatty or a Vientos trade?
So I think there should be another move, and that would be and you can certainly, they have a surplus of position players now. Beatty had a good year last year. I think he's respected within the industry. There'd be other teams that'd be interested. And if Beatty, he's one of the pieces you use for a starting pitcher. I think Cody Bellinger makes a lot of sense for them. And it feels a little bit like, really, you're going to give another, high salary contract to a player, and Cody, with the versatility, the defensive ability, I think he fits Stearns' vision more than Bo Bichette does in some regards. And if you, put him in the outfield, he's going to make you better defensively wherever he is. The fact that he'll move around. The first thing he said to Aaron Boone when he got traded to the Yankees was, I don't care. Just let me know the day of the game. And I'll look at the lineup card and I'll be ready to go. I think he would make a lot of sense. The question is, will the Mets be willing to give out another, 3 for 120, 3 for, and I'm pulling the numbers out, 3 for 35, that would allow Boris/Bellinger to beat the Yankees offer, which is, as you guys know, something in the range of 5 for 155 or 5 for 160. That's what I would do. And then at some point, they're clearly at this point, unless they're going to sign Framber Valdez, go and make a trade for a starting pitcher.
Our conversation with Buster Olney of ESPN will continue in a moment. We will talk about Cody Bellinger. We'll talk about the trade market and other ripple effects, I should say, from the Tucker and Bichette signings. Coming up next.
The outlined for Koepka are fantastic. I think it's perfect. It is punitive, but it's fair. You've got to levy some sort of fine, so to speak, for defecting, and I think they've done a wonderful job of being equitable and punishing him a bit at the same time. I think Brooks ultimately wants to be playing with the best.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Memphis is shopping John Morant. Yeah, no kidding. They should have shopped him 2 years ago and got rid of him. The problem is, where does he go? Like, what team is going to sit there and deal with a dude who, A, has not been healthy or reliable both on the court or off the court? Like, who's trading for John Morant here, Coach?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I'll tell you what, guys. The insider scam is like the best insider scam in the business of, like, in the history of television. They don't know anything until their phone gets the text message in which the deal is done, right? We saw this with Quinn Hughes. We were told, he wants to play with his brothers. He wants to play with his brothers. Now they're saying that he wanted to be traded to Detroit. In other words, just say you don't know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Joining us on the Just Baseball show, we will get right back to our conversation with ESPN's Buster Olney. Show, as always, is presented by BetMGM. Thanks for joining us wherever you are joining us. And Peter Appel, good way to get involved with the show is what?
Well, liking and subscribing here on YouTube is the best way to support the live streams. And of course, if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your pods, rate and review 5 stars. And if you have an extra few seconds, leave a written review. Hopefully everybody is enjoying the Buster Olney interview. And if you want to join the best baseball group chat in the world, where we will be talking about all of the rumors that he was talking about in this episode, make sure to join our Discord. You can find the link to that in the episode description.
Really good plug. Strong plug. Now, let's get back to ESPN's Buster Olney.
Yep. And that's my next question about Cody Bellinger, speaking about the contract, because like you said, the Yankees seem to be reportedly capped at that 5 years, $160 million number. And teams like the Phillies and the Mets and the Jays are likely going to be involved. How aggressive do you think the bidding could get? And I guess ultimately, where do you think he signs?
So I thought all along that eventually the Yankees and Bellinger would grind each other down and they would come up with a number, wherever that is, because I know how much the Yankees valued him. But they're also, and I think this is the reason why he's not getting these crazy offers that we've heard about so far, is that his offense in his career has been up and down, right? He's been an excellent defender. He's known as a great teammate. He's big market proven. Dodgers, Cubs, Yankees. So if you're the Phillies, you're the Mets, you're the Blue Jays, you're not worried about him making that adjustment to your marketplace. But the offense kind of goes up and down a little bit, and that's the reason why I think the Yankees are reluctant to go beyond where they are. From what I've talked from sources, like they're prepared that he's going to wind up going someplace else. I do wonder, just like I think he's a really good fit for the Mets, if they're willing to just sort of have this surplus of bodies. I think he's great for the Jays. And for the same reason that the Mets might be partially motivated to sign Bo Bichette, were you taking it away from a division rival? If you're the Jays and you know the Yankees need Cody Bellinger, he's really, maybe that's a motivation. But I know this. I mean, Scott, what happened in the Alex Bregman negotiation was I think the Red Sox didn't believe there was another team involved. And then Cubs come in. And I think the Yankees feel good about where their offer is. And the question is, will there be another team that comes in? I mean, Boris's history is Boris's history. Typically, the teams come out of left field. And as we saw with the Tucker situation, Dodgers, Mets probably not being aware of the Dodgers' presence wound up being difference-making. So it wouldn't surprise me if another team, one of those other teams, swooped in. He makes sense for the Jays and the Mets.
Buster Olney, we got about 15 minutes in before we mentioned a team that wasn't the Dodgers, Blue Jays, Yankees, or the Mets. And I want to ask you, is there frustration around the league that the conversation is condensed to 4 to 7 teams about the top of the league? Really, I mean, we're talking about the guys that can sign 9-figure deals. We float the same 7 or 8 teams. Where's the level of frustration, especially on the heels of the Tucker and the Bichette news?
Well, every time we get a Tucker contract, there's always talk about, is the baseball model broken? I mean, the baseball model, financial model has been broken since 1901. I mean, for years and years, the Yankees had advantages that other teams didn't have. That's just built into where baseball is. If you are looking for a level playing field and you're a baseball fan, you're a fan of the Guardians, you're a fan of the Marlins, you're a fan of these. It's never going to be level. It has never been level. And yet there's frustration. I think the key question is, is it to the degree that you can band together and to make a push for a salary cap the way they did back in 94, 95, when that really was not a fight between Players Association and Major League Baseball. That was a fight between small market and big market owners. And how can we make this work? I don't know if it reached that level yet, because big picture, this is a lucrative sport. This sport is doing great. Franchise values are going up. In the end, when we get through the labor situation, are they going to be willing to go to the mattresses, to steal line from The Godfather, and potentially risk the sport going forward? I don't know. I don't have a sense of that yet.
And on that note, I know the last time we talked around the winter meetings time, we're all pretty much aligned. We don't think that we're going to miss games due to any sort of a lockout, but I guess I'm just nervous. I'm nervous after Kyle Tucker just signed with the Dodgers for $60 million. And Jack, you even said right after we signed, that was the most visceral reaction that you've had to a Dodgers signing kind of in this era. And to me, it did feel a little bit different. Diaz, I felt okay. So Tucker at 60, I'm worried we're going to lose games, even though my brain is still telling me we're going to be fine, but my heart is scared. My heart is scared.
Real quick, the one that I equated it to, because Kyle Tucker, I stand by that. That was kind of the most frustrated and angry that I've been with the Dodgers signing in the last couple of years. The other one that jumped out to me was Tanner Scott, because everybody wanted Tanner Scott. Everyone was in the market, and then they just shoved $70 million at a lefty reliever that had 2 breakout years and was an all-star the year prior. So those were kind of the two that jumped out to me.
And oh, by the way, when Tanner Scott has a bad year, the Dodgers shrug. Like, as opposed to a lot of other franchises that would be interested in him. Look, I still think no matter what happens, Kyle, any other moves to come, let's say that the Dodgers are the team that lands Freddie Peralta or Tarek Skubal. I mean, our heads would explode if they're the team that makes a trade for Tarek Skubal. If, let's say wins arbitration, they're paying him $32 million. It's a drop in the bucket. The Dodgers probably be like, sure, we'll take him. It still comes down to this. We saw in the last labor negotiation, I think we've talked about this before, that the players, there was talk about what the leadership wanted. The executive committee votes 8-0 against the owner's proposal, last owner's proposal for a deal. And the rank and file among the players voted overwhelmingly to go back. When I see it reported now, it says the players, are against the salary cap. I shake my hand and say, it's not the players yet. It's the players' leadership. That's a very different thing. And so I'm still curious, when push comes to shove, if the Player Association says we cannot have a salary cap, if the rank and file will go along with that to the point of they're willing to miss games the way the Player Association did in 94, 95. My sense is there was a greater bond between the players back then than there is now. But I don't know. We'll see when it's actually put to a vote.
And something that could push the scales to that, you mentioned it already, if the Dodgers were able to acquire Tarek Skubal, because we saw the difference when the Tigers and Tarek Skubal went to the table in their arbitration hearing. Skubal's at $32 million. They're at $19 million. Could that drive a stake in even larger, where the Tigers think to themselves, yeah, we got to trade him. And who has the best farm system, or who has the pieces that are able to go get him? The freaking Dodgers.
Right. And here's the thing. I mean, the Dodgers are like the rich person who walks into like a Lamborghini store and is like, you know what? I like the red one, but I also like the gold one. And I like they're just like, we'll take them all. And we're not embarrassed by it. We're not polite about it. We're just going to get and I think that's how they think. Like, they feel like this is our world and we're going to do everything we can to win championships and continue to build our brand. So yeah, in fact, I fully expect that they would be a part of those conversations. And based on what I've heard, and look, Scott Harris, who runs baseball, can end all the conversation and speculation anytime he wants. He could come on your podcast today, guys, and he could say, we're done, the way Mike Hazen did with Ketel Marte. Yeah. We are out. And he has not done that, right? And I've heard around the edges that there's been even more activity around Skubal in terms of preparing for possible trades since this arbitration situation popped up. And look, if you're the Tigers, clearly they would have a better chance to win the American League Central, better chance to win the World Series if they keep Skubal in 2026. Right. But it's the American League Central. It's forgiving. Yes. You take Skubal for 5 players, 5 prospects, high-end guys that help you more, 27, 28, 29, 30. And it's absolutely clear with the gaps in the offers they made to Skubal, with the split on this arbitration situation where it's like, really? You're going to offer him $19 million? You wouldn't be closer? He's not coming back after next year. So you potentially want to just try to make the best out of this situation, get the most for him, and his vet wise value. That's why we haven't heard from the Tigers. Yeah, he's off the table. We're focused on him starting the season for us in San Diego.
Memphis is shopping John Morant. Yeah, no kidding. They should have shopped him 2 years ago and got rid of him. The problem is, where does he go? Like, what team is going to sit there and deal with a dude who, A, has not been healthy or reliable both on the court or off the court? Like, who's trading for John Morant here, Coach?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Awesome offensively, and in reality, they weren't awesome offensively. In the first half, they just had the Kawhi Lacey broken play. I hate to say this because I do not want to take away credit from everybody who went on the run that they went on. But I think it's fair, maybe you won't, to wonder if that result is different if Lane Kiffin sticks around and everybody else with this Ole Miss.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Buy or sell. Tua has made his last start for the Dolphins. Feels like Sam went easy on this one.
If I could be that crazy guy, was it Jim Cramer? Buy. Yeah, there's no way he's playing for the Dolphins again. After he said that statement, there was no way in hell anyway. But once again, new coach, new GM. I don't know how they're going to do the cap hit. It's massive.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
I'll tell you what, guys. The insider scam is like the best insider scam in the business of, like, in the history of television. They don't know anything until their phone gets the text message in which the deal is done, right? We saw this with Quinn Hughes. We were told, he wants to play with his brothers. Now they're saying that he wanted to be traded to Detroit. In other words, just say you don't know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
For you. I am curious in terms of the process that these executives go through. So you mentioned, Scott Harris has not come out and said we're not trading Terry Skubal. Mike Hazen was very open and honest about the Ketel Marte deal, where he said it's highly unlikely that we trade him, but of course we're listening. Paul Taboni, who's the new lead decision maker in Washington, he says every opportunity he gets, like, we're listening on the trade front to see if we can make our team a little bit better. Why do you feel like it's not common practice for these executives to come out and say, we're not trading this guy?
So I think, this is purely an observation. I could be full of it, right? My observation is that that almost says a lot about how closely connected to the players in the clubhouse that a given general manager is. My impression of Mike Hazen is he's like this with players in his clubhouse. Like, he's very closely tied to them. And he understands their frustrations, understands how they think, and he wants to make sure his players, from his perspective, are as best prepared for spring training as possible. And so part of how he's doing that is, hey, guys, the team we have is the team we're going to go with. Let's go. And that's why you take him at his word. We saw the Tigers' moves at the trade deadline last year. They weren't necessarily aggressive when the Tigers had a big deal. There probably was some disappointment in that clubhouse that they didn't do more. Harris doesn't put as much stock in that as a Mike Hazen does. And there's a wide range of that, right? I mean, Billy Beane, he's got history as one of the most influential general managers of all time. I don't think he really paid attention to, like, what the players wanted or what they didn't want or what made them more comfortable or what made them, less comfortable. I think Theo Epstein, who's going to go down in history as probably the greatest GM of all time because of the Red Sox and Cup success, I think he paid close attention to that. That informed a lot of his decisions. Different teams do it differently.
My last question for you is, who's the next domino to fall? Is it Framber Valdez? Is it Cody Bellinger? Could it be a trade for Freddie Peralta? Is it Tarek Skubal to the Dodgers? I mean, that's making the hair on my forearm stand up. Like, I don't think I'll be able to take that one, but I'm hoping that's not the next domino to fall.
I think Cody, because his situation is clarified quite a bit, given what the Yankees offer has been, given their desire to bring him back. I'm sure by now Scott Boras knows exactly what the Mets' interest is in him. And he probably knows what the Jays' interest is in Cody. And he's probably getting closer to where he can make a decision. And certainly I mean, Cody posting the workout video on Instagram tells you, like, this is at the top of mind for everybody. Where I think the Peralta, knowing how trades are made, Peralta, Skubal, that can drag out a little bit. Shoot, when I covered the Yankees in 1999, the first day of spring training is when they traded Wells for Roger Clemens. There's still time for general managers if they want to make a trade. And I remember that because David Wells walked in. He had no idea that a trade had come down. And he walked in first. He thought he was called into to Joe Torre's office, and he thought that what he was going to be told was, you need to shave your off-season beard. And no, in fact, he had just been traded to the Jays.
Craziness. Did you think that you'd get to the point where you'd be analyzing cryptic Instagram messages, Instagram posts and all that?
No, but that's what we're doing, right? Clues, isn't that sports? Like I tell my son all the time, who's 21, I'm like, dude, can you just, like, we get these, players who post some sort of a message, and you're like, just say what you want. We have to read in LeBron's tweets. Just tell people what you want. You're LeBron James, for God's sake.
Yes.
They'd rather vague post on Twitter and just stir up nonsense for clicks. That's how it works these days.
Yep.
Great. Buster Olney, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy your time in Australia. Baseball season will be here before we even know it, and I'm sure you'll be on that, 20-hour flight back? What does it look like now, 18?
It was 15 here, and it's probably about 13 back.
Okay.
So, yeah, you got to come up with strategies, that's for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like on that plane ride, you're going to come up with the coolest mock trades anyway. Because that's what I think. If I was on a 13-hour plane, like, I'm going to start trading guys who don't even exist anymore. Like, that's where my brain would be at.
All right. Appreciate Buster Olney joining us. As always, we appreciate him coming on the program. It's good stuff from him. Literally every single avenue we go down, right? Whether it's the Tucker Bichette thing. Heck, we talked Skubal with him a month and a half ago, and here we are sitting down talking Skubal and a possible trade with him again. I will say it's now a certain brand of tweet, the wide receiver tweet, right? Don't wide receivers tweet like that, where it's always just subliminal messaging and things like that?
Yeah, it's not even just wide receivers. It's people on Twitter now, because there's even memes where people go, "Oh, thank you for the vague post." Like, people will post a couple of sentences about absolutely nothing, or maybe just one sentence, and then you have no idea what you're talking about. So it makes you go in the comments section, and then the algorithm thinks that you're interacting with it. So people have figured out that vague posting actually leads to more engagement. And I'm sure that these athletes, not only do they see that, but they also don't want to tell you what they're actually thinking.
Yeah, 100%. We are going to talk about that 3-team trade in the final segment of the Just Baseball show, but we've got about 2 minutes here. I just want to ask you your main takeaway from our conversation with Buster Olney, because obviously there's so much that you can take away from that. It's so meaty. I personally was fascinated about the process of Tucker getting to the Dodgers, because it has to go from point A to point Z in some form or fashion, and it's different for everybody else. Who are the suitors? What's the length of deal? What's the average annual money? It was just kind of cool to hear that back and forth and how that materialized for the last week or so.
I was fascinated by the pivot to Bo Bichette, because he's totally right. When you look at what Stearns said at the beginning of the offseason, that they wanted to get better defensively, right? They trade Brandon Nimmo, who's a better hitter than Marcus Semien, but they prefer Semien's defense. And then they go with Jorge Polanco at first base, who doesn't play first base. And then Kyle Tucker leaves. So who do they pivot to? Bo Bichette to play third, a position that he's never played in his entire big league career. So that switch, and Steve Cohen can do it, but will it end up working for the Mets? We love the bat. Does the position fit make sense? We'll see. We'll see, because I believe in Bichette. I think he's going to be able to adjust. I am just worried about that throw from third to first if he's not making it from short to first.
Yeah, Bo Bichette, high school draft pick, so no college stuff in the Baseball Reference Registry, but I did the dive into the Baseball Reference Registry a little bit earlier today, and this is only accounting for regular season games, so it's not accounting for minor league playoffs, it's not accounting for the World Series. This guy, in his professional career in regular season settings, in the minor leagues and major leagues, has not logged a single inning at third base. That was not the case in the World Series. He did play second base in the World Series this past year, but he's only started 30 games in his professional baseball career at second base. So this guy has been a shortstop almost exclusively. We'll wrap the Just Baseball show next.
The outline for Koepka are fantastic. I think it's perfect. It is punitive, but it's fair. You've got to levy some sort of fine, so to speak, for defecting, and I think they've done a wonderful job of being equitable and punishing him a bit at the same time. I think Brooks ultimately wants to be playing with the best.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Memphis is shopping John Morant. Yeah, no kidding. They should have shopped him 2 years ago and got rid of him. The problem is, where does he go? Like, what team is going to sit there and deal with a dude who, A, has not been healthy or reliable both on the court or off the court? Like, who's trading for John Morant here, Coach?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I'll tell you what, guys. The insider scam is like the best insider scam in the business of, like, in the history of television. They don't know anything until their phone gets the text message in which the deal is done, right? We saw this with Quinn Hughes. We were told, he wants to play with his brothers. He wants to play with his brothers. Now they're saying that he wanted to be traded to Detroit. In other words, just say you don't know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
On the Just Baseball show, as always, it is presented by BetMGM. Jack McMullen, Peter Appel. Want to talk about this 3-team trade that went down literally 45 seconds after Tucker signed with the Dodgers. I thought, and I mentioned this last week, I thought this was a repeat of the Zach Littell, Adam Serwinowski trade, and Jeff Passan just got lost in the drafts and he tweeted the wrong thing right after the Tucker news. But no, literally 30 seconds after he tweeted Kyle Tucker to the Dodgers and he broke baseball Twitter, he tweeted this out. So Tampa, Cincinnati, and the Angels were all in agreement on a 3-team trade. So Josh Lowe goes to Anaheim, the outfielder that was previously with the Tampa Bay Rays. Gavin Lux goes from Cincinnati to Tampa Bay, and Chris Clark goes from Anaheim to Tampa Bay. And then Brock Burke goes from LA to the Cincinnati Reds. So the Reds get a left-handed reliever. Gavin Lux is a Tampa Bay Ray, and Josh Lowe is an LA Angel. What matters most to you among those three?
Josh Lowe to the Angels. I think he's the best player included in this deal. And we were talking about the Angels outfield and how it might start to look like a bunch of DHs out there. And what are they going to do? And how they needed a left-handed outfielder. And they got one in Josh Lowe, who I think you agree. And I know Aram would definitely agree that still so much potential, in that bat. They didn't have to give up that much. But I think another big winner from this trade is none of the other 3 teams. It's the Dodgers. And I know that sounds awful, but it's the truth. And you know why? The Dodgers got Mike Sirota in exchange for Gavin Lux just a year ago. Yeah. Mike Sirota was drafted originally, or not. Was he drafted originally by the Dodgers? I know he was scouted, and then he went to the Reds, and the Dodgers ID'd him as a guy that they wanted to bring in. They bring him in, and now he's a top 50 prospect in baseball, according to Aram's Top 100, which you can find on justbaseball.com. And the Reds, you trade a potential top 50 prospect, and I say potential, he is right now, for 1 year of Gavin Lux. It didn't really work out, and now you bring in a left-handed reliever in Brock Burke, who I like. Burke has had a big kind of, how do I describe, just a big velo uptick. I wanted to call it a renaissance because he was throwing 99 to 100 miles an hour, right? A velo uptick is like 94 to 95. This guy is going all the way up to 99 to 100 miles an hour.
Right. He's reinventing himself. Yeah.
So I I like bringing in Burke, but when you rewind the tape a little bit to just a year ago, you basically gave up Mike Sirota for 0.3 F-WAR Gavin Lux, and now you get Brock Burke.
Counter is, I don't think they care about the optic perspective of that.
I don't think they do
especially on the
either.
heels.
I
No.
just think that's the result.
Right, especially on the heels of their failed pursuit of Tucker and the reasoning behind, or not Tucker, Schwarber, and their reasoning behind their pursuit of Kyle Schwarber. Mike Sirota, by the way, was a Dodger draft pick out of high school, 16th round pick in 2021. He opted to go to Northeastern, and then the Cincinnati Reds took him in the 3rd round after he had a little bit of a strugglish draft year at Northeastern in a mid-major conference. But Mike Sirota, to your point, blossomed into a top 50 prospect in the game. I just don't think that they were going to hold Gavin Lux because they were wanting to see him accumulate 2 WAR to make moving Sirota worth it. It just doesn't work that way. And Lux was going to hold up a spot that should probably go elsewhere. I'm thinking like, he's not going to play DH if McLean is fully healthy, or he's not going to play second if McLean is fully healthy, because Matt McLean should be playing second base every day. You got to figure out what you have there. He's not going to DH every day because Steer is playing first, so Sal Stewart needs to DH, and Sal Stewart can't play third because Brian Hayes is at third. Now, the roster just made no sense to keep Gavin Lux on it. And the Reds, credit to them, they've rejuvenated their bullpen. Their bullpen was kind of flushed and built back up from scratch. They brought Emilio Pagan back. That bullpen looks pretty darn good. But I'm with you. The focal point of this was certainly Lowe going to Anaheim. Josh Lowe has underperformed in recent years, but we're 2 years removed from an 835 OPS in north of 130 games. He hit 292 in 2023 with Tampa. It was a struggle year last year, but you know what? Hoping for the best for Josh Lowe, hoping for the best for Lux in Tampa, and hoping for the best for Brock Burke in Cincinnati. We're at the end of the line. Plug whatever you got to plug, and then I'll take us out according to the timing for SportsGrid.
Make sure to go get your Just Baseball merch, everybody. We were talking about it in the comments section. Jordan just got a bunch of hats for his family. Make sure to go get yours in the episode description. The link is in there. And if you want to join the best baseball group chat in the world, I'm giving out my NFL playoff picks. But if you're just a baseball fan and you don't care about betting, no worries, because we're going to be talking about all the rumors that, Buster Olney talked about on this episode. You can find both links in the episode description. And if you enjoyed this episode on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. And if you're enjoying this on audio, make sure to leave a 5-star review. And if you would be so kind as to leave a written one, that'll do it for me.
Thank you very much to Peyton Genus hanging out with us, giving his take on Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette at the beginning of the show. Also, a huge thank you to Buster Olney of ESPN for joining us while he is across a couple of ponds all the way in Australia, but he'll be back for pitchers and catchers reporting, and we are giddy for that. We're also going to get into our World Baseball Classic bag in a couple of weeks, but again, Top 10 by position starts this week on the Just Baseball Show. For Peyton, for Peter, I'm Jack. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll talk to you next time.
Memphis is shopping John Morant. Yeah, no kidding. They should have shopped him 2 years ago and got rid of him. The problem is, where does he go? Like, what team is going to sit there and deal with a dude who, A, has not been healthy or reliable both on the court or off the court? Like, who's trading for John Morant here, Coach?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Awesome offensively, and in reality, they weren't awesome offensively. In the first half, they just had the Kwan Lacey broken play. I hate to say this because I do not want to take away credit from everybody who went on the run that they went on. But I think it's fair, maybe you won't, to wonder if that result is different if Lane Kiffin sticks around and everybody else with this Ole Miss.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Buy or sell. Tua has made his last start for the Dolphins. Feels like Sam went easy on this one.
If I could be that crazy guy, was it Jim Cramer? Buy. Yeah, there's no way he's playing for the Dolphins again. After he said that statement, there was no way in hell anyway. But once again, new coach, new GM. I don't know how they're going to do the cap hit. It's massive.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
I'll tell you what, guys. The insider scam is like the best insider scam in the business of like in the history of television. They don't know anything until their phone gets the text message in which the deal is done. Right? We saw this with Quinn Hughes. We were told, oh, he wants to play with his brothers. He wants to play with his brothers. Now they're saying that he wanted to be traded to Detroit. In other words, just say you don't know.
In-game live only on